Let me start this video off with a simple statement. The way we live in the United States is not normal. And I don't mean that in a quirky, endearing kind of way. I mean it in a deeply unsettling, world-tilting way that should make us stop and ask ourselves some very uncomfortable questions. But here's the thing. We don't stop. Most of us don't ask because we're too busy sprinting through our lives, too busy chasing careers, raising families, juggling obligations, trying to keep up with the system that demands everything from us and gives us so little in return. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're sitting in a cafe in Paris or Copenhagen or Barcelona, and you overhear someone talking about their life in the US. They're describing 10-hour workdays, 2 weeks of vacation a year if they're lucky, and the sheer panic of missing a paycheck because it could mean losing their home or health insurance. You'd think, that sounds like a dystopian novel, not real life. And yet, that's the reality for millions of people in this country. Somehow we've convinced ourselves that this level of stress, exhaustion, and precariousness is normal. But it's not. And when you step back and you look at the bigger picture of how humans live in other parts of the world, you start to see just how far off the rails we've gone. Let's talk about work, because it's the centerpiece of this so-called normal. In the US, your job isn't just a way to earn a living, it's your identity. It's the first thing people ask when they meet you. What do you do? And we wear our overwork like a badge of honor. But in so many other countries, work is just one part of life. People work to live, not live to work. In France, the legal work week is 35 hours, and taking a month-long vacation in the summer isn't a luxury. It's expected. In Germany, workers often clock out at 4 or 5 p.m. and don't check emails after hours. These are places where the idea of sacrificing your mental health or family life for your career is seen as absurd. Now, let's talk about healthcare. Imagine trying to explain to someone from Canada or the UK that in the United States getting sick can bankrupt you. That even if you have insurance, a single hospital visit can leave you thousands of dollars in debt. And it's not just healthcare, it's education, it's housing. It's the way we're constantly told to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, even when the boots are too expensive for most people to afford. It's the way we normalize things that are objectively harmful. We normalize living paycheck to paycheck. We normalize kids going to school hungry. We normalize the fact that millions of people have to choose between paying for rent or medication. And what's wild is how we've been conditioned to accept this as the price of freedom. Freedom, we're told, means rugged individualism. It means taking care of yourself even when the odds are stacked against you. It means working harder, pushing through, being tough. But freedom shouldn't feel like this. Freedom shouldn't feel like constantly being one step away from disaster. Real freedom is the ability to live a life of dignity, to have time for rest, for connection, for joy. Real freedom is the security of knowing that if something goes wrong, if you lose your job, if you get sick, if life throws you a curveball, you'll still be okay. So how did we get here? How did we become a society where the abnormal has become normal? It didn't happen overnight. It's the result of decades of policies and cultural narratives that prioritize profit over people, productivity over well-being, and individualism over community. We've been sold this idea that success is about outworking everyone else, that your worth is tied to how much you can produce. It doesn't have to be this way. We don't have to live like this. There are models all around us, countries that have chosen a different path, where the collective good takes precedence over corporate greed, where social safety nets exist not as handouts, but as basic human rights. The first step is acknowledging that what we're expecting isn't normal. It's not normal to work yourself to the bone and still struggle to make ends meet. It's not normal to be terrified of a hospital bill. It's not normal to see education as a debt sentence instead of a right. The second step is letting ourselves imagine something better. Because the truth is, it doesn't have to be this way. We have the resources, the technology, the knowledge to create a society where people thrive instead of just survive. But to do that, we have to start questioning the stories we've been told. The story that says you're on your own. The story that says asking for help is a sign of weakness. The story that says this is just the way things are. Because the way we live in the United States is not normal. And the more we accept it, the harder it becomes to change. So let's stop accepting it. Let's start imagining, demanding, and building a better way to live. If this video resonated with you, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and watch one of my other videos on the side of the screen. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.